what a night, what a performance, Dillian. How pleased with you with what went on tonight?
You know what? I'm a bit annoyed I didn't get done in the first round. Povetkin's too good. Even like Barry Jones saying, um, if I don't win by knockout, then I'm gonna get outboxed because Povetkin's such a good boxer and he will outbox me and this and the other. Lots of interviewers and all these YouTube guys, yeah, White's gonna get knocked out again, and Povetkin is this, and people say, no one in 7 amateur fight can beat someone like Povetkin who's a 200 amateur fight and blah blah blah. That's why I was like, I'm gonna manhandle him and start putting the smack on him early.
What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there from Dillian, the cheek snatcher Whyte. He's now half redeemed himself, no longer Dillian Nate Robinson Whyte. But anyway, so you've seen the title of this video. Many people who don't know my channel will be thinking, YB, or who's this Don saying Dillian Whyte's exposed AJ's team? Well, on the YB's channel, we go deeper than skin deep. Dillian's comment here could just be another throwaway comment, but words in themselves don't mean much. Look at Lawrence Okolie. Before his fights, he spoke a lot of words, and then the performance personified them words. Dillian, before the fight, his trainer, in fact, even Fury, let's do all three of them. All three are the recent perfect examples. Tyson Fury and his trainer before the fight against Wilder. Different kind of mindset. Compare it to Ben Davidson now. When Tyson Fury was with Ben Davidson, couldn't do a lick of anything. Couldn't knock the lid off a bottle. Change his training camp, all of a sudden is running forward like he's Mike Tyson. Lawrence Okolie couldn't knock the bottle off of nothing. Couldn't fight nowhere. Good for nothing. Big, long, stiff, good for nothing. Bored everyone to tears. Changes to Shane McGuigan. He describes how his mindset's just totally ferocious now. Like Mike Tyson said, Cuz trained me to be totally ferocious. In the ring, and out, yeah. But it's true. That's what great trainers do. Train you to be totally ferocious in the ring and out. Now Mike went a bit far with it. He went all the way with it, but there's levels to it, and that's what Dillian actually helped really clarify. What Tyson Fury did well against Wilder was, that was a measured approach. He wasn't completely wilding out. Same as Lawrence Okolie, wasn't completely wilding out. Now Dillian, him and his trainer before the fight, they were speaking greasy. And I even said, listen, we're going to find out how it goes. But I'm noting the fact that they're talking real ferocious. Harold Knight said, we're going in there, and we ain't going to be messing about. We're going to, in fact, he even used the same example. He said, we want to look somewhat like Fury looked against Wilder. So what you're starting to notice is all this, there's a few fighters out there today who have certain trainers, much of which are pretty old school trainers as well. You've got Manny Stewart's underling, who Fury's with. You've got Shane McGuigan, who obviously under his dad, but in the main, Shane McGuigan's his own little phenom. And then you've got Dillian Whyte, who's, I believe, Harold Knight is some next old-time Don with Lennox Lewis and whatnot. So all of these good stock trainers have got their fighters performing with this almost throwback level of sneer, a throwback level of viciousness. I don't know what's happened in the last 20 years. You think about fighters like David Haye. They're the best we had, no joke. I'm not being funny. David Haye's a very rich man, much more successful than I will ever be, but let's call a spade a spade. Does David Haye, back in the 80s, he wouldn't be a top 40 fighter. He'd get munched. Just no grit to him, was there? And everyone, for a while, everyone was blowing Adam Booth off. Look at him now. Good for nothing. And even then, people, if Haye was a good example of your training skills, it's not the best. Haye was just like a genetic phenom. He wasn't trained particularly well, in my opinion. He was just real athletic looking. Or just real athletic genetics. That's all he had. God knows what he could have done if he was trained better, in my opinion. But anyway, let's not digress. I'm giving you all of these examples to point out how much a difference a top level trainer can make. It's night and day. Then the Dillian Whyte example. Yes, Dillian's always had some aggression, but I'm talking about the belief now. What's been exposed in the recent months? of AJ's team versus everyone else's, or not everyone else's, because not every trainer, but people who have selected these particular trainers with throwback abilities, they're all more or less preaching the same stuff. Confidence. Dillian's just been knocked out cold by an old man who was finished. If anyone should have been shook to come forward, if anyone should have been shook to come forward, it should have been Dillian. Not AJ against Ruiz. Because Dillian ain't no AJ as well. That's what frustrates me the most. And that's what frustrates me about so-called AJ fans. They defend what McCracken does. Oh, well, YB, he's still winning. But winning isn't what it's about. It's about getting the best out of yourself. And at the moment, Rob McCracken ain't getting the best out of no one. And, in fact, just look at the training setup. AJ's bringing 2 new trainers in. When is... You don't hear Fury bringing in new trainers on top of the one he's got. That makes sense. You don't hear Okoli saying, well, I've got Shane McGuigan now, but I want to bring 2 new Dons in. Because that's what confidence, that's what a certain relationship does. You have belief in each other. You bounce off each other. You add value. You raise your fighter up to a higher level. Do you see McCracken rising AJ up to another level? Or do you see him hanging on the bootstraps and dragging him down? I'm sorry, that's what I see in the performances. There ain't no value added there. Again, Dillian, mentally broke. Well, he would have been mentally broken down as such. I'm not saying it's all the trainer, because of course some of it's the fighter as well, but it's a balance. And it's about adding value. Who's doing what? Who's bringing what to the table? AJ loses. What happens then? All of his old stuff thrown out the window. Let's completely change our style, and then, you know what I mean? Let's completely lose our head, completely lose all of our discipline, and just throw it all out. And it's not composure, and it's not targeted or strategized. It's just complete. Oh, we're in panic. What do we do? Let's just start all over again, and we don't know anything. Where was the belief? Where was the venom? Beyond that, where was the belief in AJ to say, AJ, Ruiz can't lace your boots? That's where we're starting off. Ruiz can't lace our boots. On our average day, because AJ himself has admitted, I weren't right that day. Completely weren't right. He was falling over at any shot. So we know AJ on another day would have opened Ruiz up. Ruiz, that's the same Ruiz, couldn't hurt Dimitrenko, couldn't stop him. And that's what people don't really get. They think AJ made Ruiz look like Mike Tyson. He's not. And what would have happened if AJ had gone in there and traded with him in December? It'd have gone the same way, as in AJ would have bust him up the same way he bust up Takam. Because I don't believe Ruiz punches harder than Takam does. Yeah, his shots are faster, but the shots would just bounce off. I'm sure of it. And I hope one day we get to see it, a real replay of AJ on demon time versus Ruiz, proper Tingus time. And even outside of the actual strategy AJ employed, I don't mind the safety first approach, but where was the venom? Dillian Whyte said here that, I wanted to get done in the first round. Where was that passion? Because Dillian got stopped here in devastating fashion. AJ wasn't as bad, but similar kind of losses. Dillian was saying, I just needed to get my hands on him. And then, obviously, my training and my discipline kicked in, which brought us to a happy balance. That's how it's got to be. You can't go completely AWOL. You've got to get that balance, but there's got to be a balance. Not all I see at the moment from Team AJ is all one side. And everyone else who knows boxing is seeing the same thing. It's all now completely safety first, defensive first, and not even a lick of risk taken. Or, like in the Pulev fight, it's 0 to 100. There's no transit. He's not enjoying his work. He's not enjoying busting someone up. He should have been in there with Pulev, enjoying rattling jabs off his head, marching forward and touching him all over. It was all kind of panicky jabs and little bits of work here, little bits of work there, and dance off. Where was the passion? And Dillian says it again. I wanted to go in there and hurt him. I wanted to get that get back. So AJ in the Ruiz rematch, where was the get back? Why weren't his team? Why don't they want get back? Do you know what I'm saying? It's got to be a team approach. And I feel that the whole of AJ's team were saying, oh, we've got jobs to keep up. And, well, everyone was worrying about the check rather than about, And I guess I do understand it. You can't. I can understand being more on the cautious side, but there's got to come on, man. We've got to call a spade here. There's got to be some. You can't just go completely the other side now. No risk at all. That Ruiz fight, they took no risk. What? Not even a smidgen. There was no change in pace. There was just nothing in there. Not even once did AJ just even try and put the hammer down a little bit. Just test it out. He could have, for example, after 5 rounds said, you know what? Let me just try a little bit now. And then if it looks bad, I can always back off. There was none of that. What good's that? Or in my opinion anyway. Some people love it. Some people love the new AJ, and that's good for you. I'm just saying from an all-time great point of view. Or from getting the most out of himself. We've got a once-in-a-lifetime specimen here. It's interesting. We've just seen Francis Ngannou fight at the weekend. Imagine him. This is what people often forget as well. Imagine him, turning into the run-around wrestler, for example. Imagine that. That's what we're seeing here. AJ is almost like a one-for-one kind of thing. Different sports, of course, but that's the kind of fighter he is. Ferocious. Imagine Ngannou now turning into a aerobic dancer and jabber and wrestler. You'd be like, what's going on here? Something's not right. But for some reason, AJ fans are just quite happy to... they're actually cheering it. I've got people telling me, YB, don't know what you're talking about. McCracken's the best trainer ever and AJ's doing the best he's ever done. I'm sorry, I just don't see that. And I see other fighters with different trainers thriving. I'm not saying they're perfect, but I'm saying they're thriving. Their trainers are adding value, and they've only been there a few months. That's the crazy thing. That's the scary thing about it all. Dillian's been with his trainer. I'm not saying Dillian's is all his training. Dillian had that nastiness about him anyway. But then again, so did AJ. We've seen, never mind me saying how nasty Dillian is, AJ bopped Dillian up. Do you know what I'm saying? When it came down to who's nastier, AJ won that, and that's what I can't get. How can Dillian, be arguably less nasty than AJ, and then they both lose? AJ should have been in Rago mode. Who does this muppet think he is? Where was that line of thinking? I didn't see any of it. Did you, man? Maybe it's just me. Maybe you, man, are seeing it and it's me just being a whatever. I didn't see it. Where was that part? Where was the get back? Who does he think he is? And there wasn't a smidgen of it anywhere. And it's almost like his team don't believe in him. And after a while, when you're around a whole load of negative, I'm not saying directly negative, they wouldn't have been telling AJ, oh, AJ, you're chinless. AJ, you can't take a punch anymore. But by their actions, that's how it feels like to me. The way he boxes now, it's like everyone around him just prang. And I don't say it just for banter. Genuinely, AJ has one of the best chins in the heavyweight division today. It's as simple as that. He takes shot all day long. And they bounce off. Even when he was knackered, out of shape, overweight in the Vlad fight. It hit him and he kind of fell down, but he was smiling. His eyes weren't all cross-overed. He wasn't all jelly-legged. When AJ gets normally hurt, it's because he's knackered. That's what I've never seen AJ genuinely on Queer Street. Never seen it. And neither of you, even the Ruiz fight, he gets clipped on the back of his head on his worst night. And even then, he's not like, going RETARD mode. It's all like, whatever. He's got one of the best chins in the division. It's as simple as that. And on an average night, people don't appreciate how bad that Ruiz night was. I'm talking AJ was real bad that night. I don't know what was. He's even said himself, one day I may write it in my book. There was something else going on, and I knew it. You could just see. And I'm not just saying that. If there wasn't, if he looked normal, I'd say, well, I don't know, maybe his chin isn't as good as I thought it was. But I knew that there was some sort of damage there neurologically going into the fight, which made him susceptible. Because in the rematch, Ruiz hit him with the same shots, and it bounced off like it always does, and he was smiling. Bob Arum was saying before the fight, the reason I dropped Ruiz, because he don't have no power. Ruiz is one of the most luckiest mans in the world. He caught AJ on his worst night. AJ had one of the worst nights in history for an athlete. Bottom line, of all top athletic performances, AJ was on one of the worst on that night. Because Ruiz was in there with Dimitrenko, firing them same shots, firing them same combinations. No one's even heard of Dimitrenko, and Ruiz couldn't do nothing. And it wouldn't. And AJ on a normal night, them shots would have rattled off, and he'd have marched forward like RoboCop. Yeah, that's the belief I have. That's what it's not even to do with belief, to be fair. That's the evidence we've seen. Show me it then. If AJ's so chinny, show me all the times he's been hit, yeah, and he's just flopped on the floor or whatever, or he's at most I've seen AJ take a back step. That's at most. I've never seen nothing else. People went mad about the Dillian Whyte fight. Oh, look at AJ buzzed. He got hit with a left hook and he just took a back step. Rebalanced himself after a 300-pound man hit him. If a 300-pound man hits anyone, you're going to be taking a step just to absorb the shot. So, I don't understand what's going on. AJ should have been in there with Pulev, tucked up, and just picking away, working. What are we moving for? What for? Because to be evasive against Pulev means that you're more, what he's got means you're thinking more about what he's got. You're more worried about what he's got versus what you've got. That Pulev fight is all you. That's all AJ. And that's what he should have been told. This is all you. I believe AJ could go in there against Pulev and try Naz out. Just drop both hands down and just stunt and just mess around in there. That's what I believe he could do on some Roy Jones thing. My personal, I wish one day there's some sort of technology where we can test these things out. Because I'm telling you, when I'm 60 years old and we've got this mad technology and we can test out these things, I guarantee you now, I'll look back and say, I told you, all you man. So AJ could go in there with Pulev at 40 years old and drop his hands and just play around in there and bust him up, 100%. Or at least, maybe not. Okay, whatever. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but still, he could have certainly gone in there, chin down, elbows in, and marched forward and not took a back step. Watch Canelo versus Triple G. Triple G, pound for pound, much bigger puncher than Pulev. Canelo in the rematch for the first 7 rounds doesn't take a back step. You see him. Their strategy actively was, we're not going back. And he didn't. For the first 7 rounds. Didn't take one back step. And that was with Triple G. We're talking AJ and old Pulev. Prime Triple G, and Canelo bust him up. After that first fight, which Canelo arguably lost, their camp could have said, oh no, what are we doing? Let's completely throw out who we are. No. Eddie Reynoso, who's a great trainer, doubled down and said, Canelo, we were in there with Triple G. He ain't all that. We're gonna give him the robot treatment. And what did they do? They went in there and backed Triple G up. Triple G got turned into the dancer. That's what we do. That's what greatness does. You take what people do well and you beat them at it. Oh, Ruiz, you think you're the big Mr. Bang? We're gonna take that and get all up in the guts. Yeah? Push your POO all the way back inside you. Yeah? On some training day thing. That's what after the fight AJ should have been asking Ruiz. Have you ever had your pushed in? Simple as that. Yeah? Straight training day. No doubt. In fact, them dons who were talking about that on training day were Mexican as well. Give them the training day. Simple as that. 100% confirmed. And what frustrates me, we've got all these examples of trainers who haven't spent much time with people. And still, they've got this belief. Harold Knight, he don't know Dillian from Adam, but still, he says, if I didn't believe in Dillian, I wouldn't be training him. Now, that could be a throwaway, whatever comment, but I don't know. They've clearly got belief because, guess what? Harold Knight could have said, man, Dillian, I think the best strategy for us is let's dance around. Let's not take no risk. And I think Dillian and the trainer even said at some point in the build-up, they said that we were thinking about doing the AJ approach, but then we chose against it. I'm not sure exactly what the quotes were, but it was something along the lines of that. We thought about doing the AJ approach of going in there and just completely boxing around the place, running around the place and whatnot, on points. But that's not us. That's not who we are, and we want to get back. More than anything, we want to get back. Winning weren't enough. Yes, we're going to win, but we're going to win in style. We're going to get him out of there the same way he got me out of there. And this is a man who's known Dillian for 6 months. McCracken's known AJ for 10 years. And he's never, I don't believe, really had that belief. Because before him, Tony Sims was in there, and AJ was fighting like Conor Ben does. Obviously, AJ's a different level of athlete than Conor Ben. But the point is, some trainers, they have belief in their fighters. And they believe the fighters they've got are the best. And therefore, when you're the best, these are the things the best can do. And people like to use Floyd, but Floyd's a bad example. Floyd had bad hands. When Floyd was, let's not forget, when Floyd was AJ's age, he was tearing people up, working away, busting people up. So let's not throw Floyd out there. And another thing as well, Floyd pound for pound isn't AJ. AJ's a much heavier puncher pound for pound than Floyd ever was. Again, it's like Ngannou. Ngannou's team embrace what he's doing. That's what he's great at. He's great at knocking people out. So that has to be primary in what he does. Yes, he has to do the wrestling. But still, ultimately, that's what he does. AJ, what he does is bust people up. And because he's so great, he can outbox the best of them as well. But there's got to be a balance. You can't be completely... And that's what makes it more scarier for me, is the fact that because they're not working on a full, complete game, it's almost like A or B. It's one or the other. Where in boxing, it's transitions. It's flow. You transition from a jab into other work. At the moment, it's kind of like AJ's just jabbing, or he's going AWOL, throwing 5 uppercuts in a row and swinging massive shots. There's no transition there, which is actually dangerous. Many times you see AJ in the Pulev fight swinging big massive right hands, and he's leaning over and he's missing by miles. That's not good. That's even more dangerous than doing what I'm saying. If you're driving look at the Parker fight. If you're driving a jab forward and putting a right hand on the end and looking to get busy. In fact, just look at AJ's old fights, all of them. Takam, I can't think of the other ones, but there's all Dillian Whyte. He's always driving forward and then looking to work. That's what you call, you're basically cutting the tree down. It's a process. It's not, oh, I've just stunned him with a jab, I'm just going to go mad now and throw massive power shots, load up. No, you set pace with a jab. You double it up. AJ against Parker was doubling the jab up, then putting the right hand down, and then looking to get busy. At the moment, I think he caught Pulev with a right hand or something, and it just went AWOL. Just went mad. Lost all composure, and just went hunting, and that shows how thirsty he is. That part of him's still burning and thriving, but what's not going on in the training camp, they're not looking to enhance it. From what I observe, given how thirsty AJ was to get his hands on Pulev, I believe Rob McCracken is suppressing it, and that's why when he's under this mind control from McCracken, it's almost like seeing his opponent buzzed. That's what breaks the spell. AJ at the moment is under Rob McCracken's spell, and whilst it's kind of going to plan and he's just jabbing, it's fine. And the minute he smells blood, his real instincts come through, and it just sends him into a... You know what I'm saying? That's what it looks like. I'm just saying what I'm seeing. He goes mad and he starts going crazy. So it's there. Before, his lust for blood was being fed. Now, they've suppressed it away, and it still comes out. It still comes out, which is even more dangerous. Now he's just swinging around the place, and it's not even effective. Who knows what could happen? You know, I'm not being funny, but yeah, bottom line is, anything could happen. If you're in there with someone younger and more athletic, who knows what can happen? If you start going mad and loading up and just swinging by miles and missing by miles, as he did in the Pulev fight. That's not the best game plan. The best game plan is what he used to do, was be in there, and it wasn't no shock for AJ to throw a hook or an uppercut. Before, he was just throwing them as they came. It wasn't a big deal. Now it's almost like, he's excited. He can't wait to get it off. That's his main shots. AJ was known as a hooker and uppercutter. Now he don't throw them shots. In the Ruiz fight, he don't show me where he throws an uppercut. I don't think he threw it once the whole fight. That's AJ's bread and butter. That's what he's been made on. That's why he made his career. I'm not saying a fighter can't develop as well, but you got to have a holistic approach. Not, alright, we're going to, after the Ruiz fight, we're going to throw all of that out the window, and let's just focus on the jab and the right hand. What is that? Never mind all of the other aspects, like the revenge factor that Dillian talks about. Never mind there's so much going on here. And AJ himself clearly doesn't have confidence in Rob McCracken, because that's why he brought 2 new trainers in. So for all you goofazoids out there telling me, oh, YB, you don't know what you're talking about, AJ and Rob are the best, they're not the best. As in, I'm saying, they haven't got the best, most optimal relationship. If they did, them 2 new random charity case dons wouldn't have been brought in. I don't even know who they are, but they were the wrong people to bring in. When you've got the right trainer, yeah, you don't need 3, 4, 5, 10 man deep. You need 1. Shane McGuigan, I guarantee you, yeah, you won't see Okoli talking about no 2 new trainers. I guarantee you, even Tyson Fury, you won't hear 2 new trainers. Because when you believe it, when you've got that kind of relationship and you've got that belief in each other, you're connecting, you're vibing. Mike Tyson and Cus D'Amato. Can you imagine that? Mike saying, oh, I think we need to bring 2 new random trainers in. What? So AJ knows, and that ultimately, the buck does end with him, in all fairness. I don't know why he's got this. If you want loyalty to McCracken, give him say, you know what, I feel loyal to you, I'm going to give you 5% no matter what. Go sit down somewhere. Or carry on with the amateurs. Here's your 5%. If you feel, that's what you do. If you feel that much of obliged, don't let him ruin one of the best athletes in the last 100 years' careers. For what? Get rid of all them other random trainers and bring Shane McGuigan in. That's the bottom line for me. Bring him in. And if after a year it ain't working, because listen, Shane McGuigan don't take long. Ask Okoli. Within a year, it's all wrapped up. He's gone from average to literally, I think Okoli for me now is top 5 pound for pound from what I'm seeing, and in terms of his progression on the trajectory he's on. He's Okoli top 5 pound for pound right now. And Okoli's part of, or Shane McGuigan is part of Okoli's team, and Okoli's part of AJ's team, so it's close. It doesn't take much. I'm pretty sure, AJ brought in some Angel Fernandez, and that was Chamberlain's trainer. You were so close. Scrap all that. Get rid of them, man. Chamberlain's trainer. McGuigan. So AJ's proven he can do it. Rid of McCracken, rid of McCrappen, rid of them other dons, and McGuigan. That's the best bet right now. Perfect bet. It's right in front of you. But he's got to make the jump. So we'll see. But just notice all the things going on around you. Look at all the performances other people are having. And how they're feeling about it as well. Dillian stopped Povetkin in devastating fashion, and he wanted more. Yeah? He wanted more. AJ beat Pulev in 10 rounds. A man who should have been out there in 2. And it's kind of like, well, you know what I'm saying? I want to see the lust. I want to see the lust for I want to see the lust for BLOOD. You know what I'm saying? I want to see him I want to see his lipstick. I want to see him rock hard to get his hands on people. Not, oh, well, if it's 10, if it's 11, if it's 12, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? I want him to genuinely want to turn words into real life. That wasn't there in the Pulev fight. There was none of that in the Pulev fight. I don't know what the Pulev fight was, but there was none of that. You know what I'm saying? None of it.